to another episode of Let's Talk Cyber. And today we have with us Brock Roderick joining us from Wellington.
Hello.
Um, so Brock is you're into cybersecurity, in IAM, data analytics, edtech, graphic design, game development, and now you have your own company. Is there anything left for you to conquer?
Yeah, I don't feel like I've quite conquered what I'm working on at the moment, to be honest. There's just so much available that we can do in the education space. But I'm constantly thinking of new ideas to innovate and educate in this space. So there's still a lot of conquering left to do. And really, one of the main focuses at the moment is all around awareness campaigns and turning um, really good research and really good content into something that's memorable and understandable. So there's quite a lot left there to do. But it doesn't stop me thinking about the next challenge, right? So there's actually an interesting exercise that I do quite regularly is that when a new piece of tech or something interesting comes out, I'll sit down and I'll write out, you know, what are the 10 things we could do with this, or what are the 20 things we could do with this, and going through that list to sort of understand and validate value proposition in each one of those things and how that actually benefits the community or people's lives in any way. So there's definitely a lot of things to conquer, but there's still a lot more that I need to do in the space that I'm working in at the moment.
Awesome. And the thing that really excites me and keeps me going is I don't come from this background. So I always find it easy to talk to people who also don't come from this background and have transitioned into cybersecurity. Now, you started your journey as a sales manager at Harvey Norman, and now you're into cybersecurity, of course. How did this shift happen?
Yeah, it's a good question. Harvey Norman goes back about 15 years, so it's quite a while ago.
Yeah.
And I guess the interesting thing from Harvey Norman and that job is that it was extremely valuable to the work and my attitude that I have now, because it builds a lot of resilience, learning how to turn no's into yeses, and dealing with failure and getting
Mhm.
comfortable with rejection. That's was a very valuable experience working at Harvey Norman. So anyone out there, I'd highly recommend doing a frontline sales role, because you
Yeah.
get very tough very quickly.
You have to be resilient when you're starting your own business. You know,
Exactly right.
a
So
lot of no's.
yeah, there was a lot of really good lessons to be had there. And I worked as a sales manager for four and a bit years. And it was my first real job that had any real level of responsibility. We're running a $20 million a year business and managing a team of salespeople and making sure that we hit targets and all this sorts of thing. But it got to the point where I really just wanted to have a change. And having the benefit of youth on my side, it was a good time to give it a go and see what else was out there. So what I did actually back then was write a list of things that I were important to me when it came to a job and came to a career. And a lot of them, right up the top of the list, was about stability and security.
Hmm.
Job security. So I looked around at a few opportunities and saw that one of the big four banks, ANZ, was hiring at that time. They were National Bank.
Yeah.
So I applied, and I went from a full-time pretty good salary sales role to a part-time entry level role at the bank, um, which seems and sounds a little crazy to a lot of people, right? But the big benefit that I really saw there is that this is a massive organization with so many different avenues for advancement. So I was like, okay, well, I'll get my foot in the door and let's see
Hmm.
what happens. So after a few years of paying my dues, learning the business as much as I could, quickly realized that my idea of how big ANZ or a bank was actually really small, and they're much larger than what you think. You've got financial crime, fraud, you've got the
Yeah.
information security team, you've got the risk teams, and they're just so massive. So after working at ANZ in the role that I was working at for a while, there was an opportunity that came up, which was to work in the information security treatment space. And the great thing about ANZ is that they do secondment opportunities internally. So you can try a different area of the bank and try a different avenue, and if it resonates with you, then that's could be something that you would enjoy. Or if not, you could go back and find a different secondment opportunity. And that opportunity was awesome. We were working on role-based template access and developing these tools and all sorts of really interesting work.
Mm.
So I got this opportunity. It was like a 3 month secondment contract, to work part time, to work full time, sorry, with them. So that was really cool. Learned a lot about information security, and ever since then I've sort of been hooked. So I bounced around internally within ANZ for a little bit, and at the moment I'm operational risk manager, working in technology. So cybersecurity is very much a focus in my day-to-day role. So that's really the career progression path that I had, was just taking those opportunities that came up. Don't be afraid to try something new. And money isn't the be all end all. So sometimes it's good to take a pay cut for those future gains that you might
Yeah,
have. Yeah.
absolutely. And what are your specific areas of interest in cybersecurity?
Yeah, good question. It's cybersecurity is quite a broad topic, you
Yeah.
know. It's massive, and I'm by no means an expert in any one of them, just purely because of the amount of knowledge and study and dedication that goes into those specializations. But one thing that I really enjoy doing is being a generalist across as much as possible, trying to
Mhm.
understand in simple terms, the most common areas and aspects of cybersecurity, whether that be data protection or penetration tests and vulnerabilities, or whatever that might be. But I've started with Education Arcade, specializing in this awareness and education space, which I think is where I add the most value, where I can add the most value, because I don't have a traditionally trained background in cybersecurity. I'm more of a creative type. And really, when it comes to awareness and education, it's more an emotional game, and getting people engaged with your messaging, as opposed to the actual messaging itself, because we've
Yeah.
got experts for that. So yeah, I'd definitely interested in this space. That's probably going to change in the next 10 years, because the environment's changing constantly,
Amazing. Yeah.
you know. So we'll see what happens, but at the moment, awareness and education.
And how did you come up with the idea of education arcade?
Yeah, it's interesting working in such a large organization, especially one that's so heavily regulated by the Reserve Bank and APRA. Because what accompanies that is a lot of training, a lot of mandatory compliance training.
Because I see a lot of companies doing training,
Mm,
but coming up with a training company through playing games, that's just marvelous. How did you come up with this idea?
yeah, it's a lot different, right? So,
Yeah.
with the training that we do, because of the regular training that we do, it's quite information heavy, and I found that a lot of the times it was really hard to retain the messaging within that training. So, as part of some of the work that I was doing at ANZ, I was developing some awareness campaigns and training programs for our executive team, so cybersecurity training. And we happened to come across some of the stuff that PwC have been doing with Game of Threats, and that was this tabletop gamified player versus player security incident um, tool, and it was awesome. People loved it. They thought it was amazing, and they wanted to roll it out to everyone. So really, the idea sort of started with those two things. Was that the current training that we have to do every day is quite dry and forgetful. And then we've got this super interactive, gamified experience. Well, how do we mash the two and then make that a scalable solution for everybody? So that's really where we're conceptually Education Arcade started, and I just thought, all right, let's crack on and see what we can do, and downloaded some software, started making some games, following the massive community that sits behind game development and animation, and partnered very early on with a cybersecurity consultant, so had that quality gate for all the stuff that we're putting out. So um, that's really where it all started, and we just started iterating on that process of building some content, getting some feedback, and then figuring out, okay, well, what's next? We need a platform, we need an LMS, we need all sorts of stuff that accompanies with that education. So yeah, that's really where it started, and how we started building it over the past 3 years.
Awesome. And how do you manage your time between, your job and with this new company, Education Arcade?
Yeah, it's tough. You got a full time job that's very demanding, and requires you to, almost be on the cutting edge of risk a lot of the time, to ensure that people are
I
safe.
think I think you can only do it by passion. If you have the passion,
100%.
then because we all get 24 hours, in a day, and if after this demanding and a full time paying job, if you have something left, people usually spend it with their family, or some me time if you're having a terrible day. But to be able to build something amazing for the community, I think it requires passion.
Oh,
So yeah, you've done.
100% completely agree with you. And it's passion is the reason that, on a Monday I might be up until 2 a.m. fixing a bug in one of the games I've made, because I really want to make sure it looks good and runs well.
Yeah.
Passion is what keeps me doing that, and doesn't just keep me doing it for, a few months. It keeps me doing it for a few years. So as far as managing and that balancing act, there's a few criteria that sort of needed to be met, right? Yeah, you have to be passionate about this stuff, and I'm definitely passionate about, the cybersecurity education awareness space, and games. And I think really one of the enablers of that success was the flexibility with ANZ's working arrangements, which means I can meet with you today on a Thursday in the middle of the day, and catch up that time later with ANZ. So having a flexible working arrangement with your day-to-day employer allows you to build this,
Yeah,
thing you're so passionate about outside of work.
that is fantastic.
Mm.
Um, and I've been to your website, and the graphics and the content delivery is really good and smooth. Who builds these games? How much time does it take if you're building it? How much time does it take for you to build it?
Yeah, it's hard. The building games is hard. It's so as far as all the content you see on our website, the graphics, the games, the animation, the audio, everything is done by me.
Wow.
Um, So I create all of that, and then we go through this build and test, and revise phase. It's a very cyclic development process that we take, and several times throughout a game's development that will go through our quality check with our um, security consultants, and then essentially, once we've gone through that, about 250 to 300 hours has elapsed between when we started, conceptually, to when we've got something that we upload onto our cloud platform and scale to the world. So it's
Mhm.
it's definitely a labor of love.
And what are the topics that we expect to learn from this platform? What new topics or features will you be incorporating in the future?
Yeah, sure. So at the moment, we've got this free model. So as
Mhm.
part of that free model, that's open available to the public, anyone in the world can go and play our games. But we've got two sort of product bases within that. So we've got our games, which feature cybersecurity topics, and
Mhm.
then you've got our quizzes, which we do 3 quizzes every month,
Mhm.
and they'll go over the latest cybersecurity news and trends. So it's sort of like the stuff quiz, I
Yeah.
guess you would
Yeah.
say, but with a cybersecurity focus. Um, and when we look at the games, you've actually got them broken down into specific subjects. So you look at phishing, we look at data loss, we do ransomware, We do business email compromise, password protection, and one of the new ones that we're going to be releasing is all about the online scams. So the formula that we follow is, how do you identify the issue? How do you prevent it from happening? But we boil that down into some key behaviors. So each game will just focus on one or two key behaviors to keep that person safe from that scam or that vulnerability or that attack vector. Mm.
Nice. And have you thought of developing like a Android or an iOS app, a mobile app for these games?
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah. Mobile is where everyone wants to be,
Yeah.
right? So it's funny you mentioned that the latest game that we've developed, which we haven't released officially yet, is called Scamland. And we built that specifically to work on all devices.
Wow.
Because there's a lot of work that goes into creating something to work across platforms seamlessly and almost identically, so people have the same interactions. And instead of building a dedicated application which may go on an app store, what we've done is, because we're building in HTML5, we've made that available to be played in your phone through your browser. So it doesn't matter what phone or what device you're using, it scales and works on anything. So there's definitely a focus to push more of our stuff onto the mobile platform, where the
Mhm.
original intent we had with making the current stuff desktop only was that we figured that that would be used within a learning management system, which is best used on a PC.
Nice. And have you thought of providing your platform and your services to companies?
Yeah, absolutely. What we're doing at the moment, actually, we're going through some pilots with some
Mhm.
companies. So we've got our free model, and then
Mhm.
what we're looking and what we're working on at the moment is our business model, which is about a subscription-based approach to learning, mainly to give our clients the ability to track who has completed what courses for compliance or audit purposes. So at the moment, we're piloting what that actually looks like, and we've taken essentially the games that we've developed, the subjects that we're talking about. We've wrapped that in a very short course, so a very very short introduction into the subject matter. Then you get to
Mhm.
play the game and understand a bit more about what's happening and how to prevent it. And then the last final step is a 3 question quiz, really simple, which goes over some real world examples of the stuff that you've just learned. So if you're doing our ransomware course, for example, you'll see in that quiz some real examples of ransomware that have occurred, and there's been a lot of it. So that's coming.
Where do you get all this energy from, Brock?
I'm tired a lot of the time, but passion. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you love what you do, it keeps you going, and I
Yeah.
really enjoy the stuff that we do at Education Arcade, and really hoping to start expanding that out to some other areas as well. We've got to focus on trying to get into the kids education space as well, because cyberbullying is a real issue, and online safety for children is a real issue as well. And there's so much research out there that shows the need for somebody in that space, and games are just a natural way to engage with everyone of any age demographic. So passion.
No, no, I'm a fan of Education Arcade, and I've played few of your
Thank you.
games, and I was like, wow, this is so much fun. And I believe that education should be free. And when I found out that you provide these fantastic games for free, I was like, wow, I was so impressed, and I still am.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for sharing this wonderful platform with the world. I think we need more founders like you who are passionate and doing work for the community. And I mean, I understand. We all need money to pay the bills, but somebody needs to think about the community as well.
Exactly, and if I was doing this, or if anybody is doing something like this just to make a buck, they wouldn't stick with it for so long, right? But
Exactly.
the reality is that there's a cost associated with developing and hosting and giving this content out to the world. So and that's really why we're starting to look at, okay, well, how do we provide some business services that are still a lot more affordable than what a company would have to pay if they wanted to commission their own game.
Mhm.
So we're trying to give that benefit back to that business customer to allow us to fund this public free model as well. So but it's a very dynamic environment, always changing, especially when it comes to funding and development and keeping the lights on, so to speak. So um, yeah, it's an interesting space.
And when do you plan on launching this subscription model? Have you?
Um, Relatively soon. We don't have a confirmed date as of yet. It really depends on how well these pilots go.
Right.
Um, there may be quite a lot of changes that need to be had because we've gone out for a lot of feedback. We go out for feedback almost monthly to all different areas and all different industries. And the requirements list is massive and they're all conflicting, because each industry works a little bit differently. So really, we want to understand the an ideal model that can work for multiple areas. So a subscription-based model where we host our own learning management system makes a lot of sense for smaller businesses and smaller enterprises. When you start getting to the larger end of that scale, it makes more sense to have a be a supplier of content for their own LMS within their internal network. So they get the security benefits and the tracking benefits within a system they've already spent a lot of money on. So
Mhm.
those are the things that we're working through and refining before we actually start launching anything. But at the moment, if somebody's definitely interested in using any of our stuff, we're extremely flexible. We can, if you want to be the pioneer to jump on and try it, then yeah, let's do it. Reach out to us and we'll figure out a way to make it work.
Thank you. And I'll also leave the link to your website and your LinkedIn in the YouTube comment, so
Perfect.
people can actually reach out to you and try and play your games, because I just love your games. I'm a fan.
I'll send you some
Um,
more soon.
yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I would definitely. It also takes me. It's kind of like it's cybersecurity, but I'm not doing the actual boring cybersecurity stuff. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a good distraction for me. So please, yeah.
No, it's actually one of our original slogans, I guess you would say, was trick yourself into learning, so it's basically what you just described.
Yeah. I mean, I'm working on something similar, not exactly what you're doing. So I will actually contact you because I'm quite because I think I should I don't know, I think I should some we should do some sort of partnership, like
Yeah, sure.
you know um where I can talk about Education Arcade and tell the world that this is a company which is creating some wonderful games for free, and also promoting cybersecurity awareness in the community. I work with the University of Waikato. I have some good contacts in the industry as well, and I think I can help and contribute in this wonderful initiative of yours.
Sounds fantastic. I mean, yeah, we're all for building partnerships at the moment, and we really see that way as the way forward. And instead of having 10,000 followers on LinkedIn or whatever, I'd prefer to have 50 like you that I talk
Yeah,
to and actually
yeah.
know. So we're all about building partnerships and building a network of a little community of cybersecurity educators. And yeah, let's do
Yeah, I think
it.
I think a lot of students will love your game. So I think it's just letting the world know that yay, hey, we exist.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're here. But thank you so much for giving your wonderful time today.
No
I really,
worries.
really appreciate it. And to my viewers, that was Brock Roderick, founder of Education Arcade, and I will leave the link in the description of the YouTube video. So if you have any questions and if you would like to, play the games, you can directly reach out to Brock on LinkedIn, or send him email through the website. So yeah,
Sounds good.
thank you, and I wish you all the very best. If you need any help or anything, I'm more than happy to help you.
Ditto. It's nice seeing you.
Thank you.
See
See ya.
ya. Bye.